Okay, well, welcome back everyone to Aligning with Success. This is going to be an informal call, so I'm not going to actually record it as one of the weeks of the series of weeks, because I think we're on week number 21 or 22. I lost track. I have to check that. In any event, week 20, yeah, we're on 21. This would be week 21. So here's what I thought about. I thought about what Leo announced on the chats this past week. You all had a chance to see. He invited three guests to Thursday night's ABC, Power ABC. You can call it that, or you can call it the business launch call, whatever. It's a Power ABC. And and he had three people enroll. Yes, Leo? All three enrolled? Okay. What do you think is the magic, Leo? Why?
Just a minute. It's okay. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm just okay. So, three or two of them just signed up for now slowly, but Bobby, you know Bobby, he's an he's a very
He's in lunch mode.
yeah, he's a launch mode. I shared to him a strategy yesterday because he goes salesman
He
and you have a
goes,
lot sell.
oh,
You
yeah, okay.
very a musician. You have a lot of people. You don't shy. You don't shy, and all the family said, "Why you don't find something to sell? You would have." You see, so that's fine because all the three love the meeting Thursday night. Okay, but I not met a patient to nobody, and Bobby asked me, "What I gotta do now? What I do to do now?" It's okay. And tonight he's not be there because he's began to start tonight. Okay, but
So,
so it's
so out of the
yeah,
three people, one's a fast starter, which
yeah,
which is what we expect. My stats would suggest one does very little, if anything at all. One goes slow and one goes quick. That's
yeah,
typical what the rule of thirds, right?
yeah. It's focus. I shared to him to be silver this week. He signed up officially yesterday. He said me yes before, but he signed up yesterday. But
If you want to help him go silver this week, Leo,
yeah,
then what you need to have is two or three meetings with groups of people. And
yeah.
and if you want, let me know what time and
Mhm.
I will jump in on a Zoom and be an A, do an ABC for the team, for the group.
Yeah, because he worked the night shift. He worked to 3 to 12
Yeah.
at this moment. He can come to the Zoom. Last week he was on vacation. That's why he got timing to be there. So
Figure it out. If you
yeah,
think
yeah,
he can make, if you think that, I'll tell you why, because momentum, right?
yeah,
He's excited. He needs to get some people in front of you and me.
yeah.
That's
That's what I
really all he
said.
needs to do. Because getting people in front of well, this is part of my topic tonight, so I'll talk about that in a minute. Um, but the idea here was you got three people on a call, they got excited, and all that call was a conversation. It was a very conversational call last week. I didn't put the PowerPoint on, I didn't walk them through it. I showed them, I said, look, I have this that we can talk about, but it sounds to me like we don't really need this tonight. So it was a very conversational approach, and yet it was enough. Why is it enough? Because we're experts. We know how to read people. We know how to answer questions. We know how to prompt and get questions from them. We know how to get them talking. So, because we're not shy. And frankly, it's not our prospect. And it's a lot easier when it's not your prospect to ask those probing questions. That's why an ABC is so vital to the process. Niken built its whole business on the ABC. And of course, you all know what I'm talking about when I say ABC, right? Is there anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let me just, for the sake of the audience who may be watching the playback, the A is the expert. You put a prospect, a C, in front of an expert, and you're the B in the ABC. So your job is to be quiet. That's your first task. Once you've presented the C to the A, and and by the way, there is a protocol to follow in the introduction. Make sure you edify the person you're introducing, the C, to the A. Edify them, and vice, and also edify. And this is all in the call and in the introduction. Edify the A to the C. That way, there's mutual respect that is now transferred between the A and the C. And now you've established really all you need to establish for that call. And the A will ask questions, even of you, because they may need some consideration. They may need to know where in the process is this person? What have they seen? What has been their points of interest? They may ask the prospect directly that. But the ABC call is where people loosen up. They roll up their sleeves and they get a little bit more involved in the conversation because it's not a high. Most people think an ABC is a high pressure call. You're there to close. No, that's exactly wrong. We're there to open. The A is there to open, to peel away layers of what has not been peeled away yet, so we can actually expose what's really underneath it all and where it is that we might be able to help and be of service. So if you're gun shy or concerned about putting an a proper A, an expert A is going to open, not close. And as you saw, as Leo saw, and you saw through Leo's experience, they closed themselves because at the end of that conversation, there's a level of comfort and understanding that allows them to say, I feel safe here. This makes sense to me. I feel good about this. Those are the things that inherently in their mind or in their heart they're feeling. And that's why they will take the step forward to get more involved. So exposure to ABCs is really what's lacking in Niken. 100%. 100%. I can tell you as a person who's been in this business and made millions, this is the key and it's missing. How do I know? Because I'd be on the phone with you. I'd be the one being called a lot of the times to be involved in an ABC. So I know that that's a missing ingredient. And so Dave and I were talking last week after the call. Actually, it was this weekend. And I had mentioned to him that I thought maybe what we ought to do for the sake of this call and everyone who follows our training is set a goal for the team, have an actual team goal. So we have your individual goals. As individuals, you set goals for from the beginning of the month, and you work on achieving those goals during the course of the month. And but I thought maybe what we ought to have is a team goal. Everybody on the ice, everybody gets a chance to contribute to this effort. And the goal would be what, in reflection of what Dave said, he says, now we just need 100 people on that call. I thought, you know what? That ought to be our goal. 100 ABCs in the month
Right.
divided by, 20 people. That's five each. That's, just a little bit more than one a week. That's hardly a campaign. That's barely alive. That's barely a heartbeat in this business if you can't pull together one ABC call in a week. So maybe that ought to be our goal, and then we can obviously track it because you're doing ABC calls. So you're either going to be calling me or Dave individually to be an A, or you're going to have them on a call Thursday with us, and that'll be the ABC call. And we keep score of how many ABC calls we've had in the course of the month between Dave and myself, and the goal would be 100 ABC calls. Now think what would happen if three out of three in Leo's case resulted in enrollments, and we had 100 people, and even if we use
Just
the
be
rule of
careful.
thirds, even if we just did one third, as in the case of Leo, 100, one third is 33. 33 new go-getters in Niken. That's more than that's on this call. So that would be a monumental achievement. And yet it's really not that big a deal, is it? At the end of the day. So what do you say? What do we do this? Why don't we set in motion for the month of June, since this is the last call, for the month of June, 100 ABC calls, and you're all going to contribute to it. I'm going to talk about to Dave maybe about putting together some type of a reward or recognition for the high achievers in this ABC call, because it is the fundamental to your business. It's like air. If you're not doing ABC calls, you're not converting. So I'm sure you're converting sales without so many ABC calls, product here, product there. But you're not going to convert people into crusaders without getting them involved with other people where they see it's safe here, that the group of people here are conscientious, that they're plugged in, that they are of good intention, that this group is worth being a part of. Michelle.
Mike, can this ABC be with a different A other than you or Dave?
Yeah, I guess it could be, but then there's no way for us to track it.
So you
And
want to track
and
it. You don't want each of us to
well,
track our own.
it's also the nature of the A. If you're putting them on the call with me or Dave, then you're going to get somebody who's skilled at the questions that pertain to the business opportunity. We're not talking about ABC calls for products. You guys already have product sales. That's not the concern. It's the growth of the base. If there's not more talking heads growing Niken, we're never going to achieve our 500 million goal for 2030. That's not going to happen. So there's only one way to make that happen. More talking heads, more people involved in Niken as an income option. And that's only going to happen if we create the space, the environment for people to feel safe, to feel. I'll tell you what is the biggest fear somebody has about getting involved in network marketing? What do you think is the biggest fear?
Failure.
Barbara,
Failure. Sorry.
failure? I don't think that's the biggest fear.
Not knowing
Barbara,
what to do.
not knowing? I don't think that's the biggest fear.
Investing money, and then you don't get what you want to get.
And no return, no
Yes.
ROI. So that's kind of the same as failure.
The people that
letting
I've spoken to are
That's
afraid
not the
of
biggest
having
fear. Go ahead.
letting someone
Wait,
down.
the
letting
people that
someone
I've
down.
got
That's
my
not the
hand up,
biggest
but
fear for somebody joining. That might be the biggest fear for somebody who's involved.
the people that I've spoken to are afraid of having to carry inventory. They just because they're used to the usual pyramid schemes and where they have to purchase this. I mean, we have to purchase a certain amount every month too, but it's not exorbitant. Whereas in a lot of the network marketing companies, you have to carry, you have to buy inventory. If you
Okay,
buy
that
product for
that's not the
yourself, it
biggest
doesn't
fear
count.
because that fear is overcome immediately when they know that that's not an issue here.
But initially, their minds are closed because of that fear. That's what I've found.
Okay, so afraid of the inventory or the initial investment? Those are two
No, the
different
initial
things.
investment, they say, "Oh, that's nothing," but then
Okay,
they say there must be a catch that I have to buy a certain amount every month, a minimum amount.
okay. So it's really clear there is not a single network marketing company where that is true. That's false. There's not one network marketing company on planet Earth that requires a minimum purchase. It's false. So you got to
I've
be
seen
very
rumors
clear
we've
about
heard from others, Mike,
it.
that have been in network marketing
Yes,
that haven't applied themselves.
Okay, but let me
That
keep
all network
control of this
marketing
conversation.
companies are
Let
the
me stay on
same.
top of this. Let me address this. So, if it's not a fact that it is a requirement, what needs to be very clear is in for the purposes of obtaining bonuses. If you want to earn commissions, then there is a compensation plan that tells you What are the volumes necessary in order to benefit from the various components of the compensation plan? The least of which is 100 points in volume to obtain the benefits of rebates. Do you know that you get paid retail no matter what the volume is? There is no minimum
Mhm.
and you still get paid. But for other aspects of the compensation plan, there are fundamental requirements that you can look at the comp plan, the least of which is 100 points for the rebates and overrides on your personal group. So there is no network marketing company, legitimate, that requires anybody to purchase volume. That is just simply a lack of understanding. But that is not the biggest fear. That's still not the biggest fear. Anyone else?
I think it's people join other companies that I've been involved with. You join and then you're just left hanging. What do I do next?
Okay, that's the what do I do? Not sure what to do. If they were involved in such a thing, I can see there's a little bit of hesitation on their part, but it's not the number one fear, especially if you're exposing them to NECAN. So, what do you think is the number one fear? If they're getting exposed to NECAN, they're seeing that all those things go away. So, which one is it? Why is it that they wouldn't jump in? What is the number one fear?
They don't have time.
That's not a fear.
Oh,
The personal rejection?
Okay, we're getting close.
They don't think that they have the ability to sell, and they think that's what they have to focus on.
Which stems back to personal rejection. And I would say personal rejection slash reputation.
Reputation?
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yep.
The biggest fear people have is how are they going to be, how they're going to look. Now, think about this for a second. I want you to think of every success person you've ever seen or been exposed to in any form of social media, books, videos, movies, any form of any way you've ever been exposed to success stories. Do you think those people honestly give a rat's ass about what other people think of them?
Absolutely not.
The first thing that they had to overcome in the journey of success was that fear. The fear of what other people think of them. That was the first thing that they had to overcome in order to break through the barrier that limited their ability to succeed.
Well, we must be ahead then, because obviously, if we didn't think of it, none of us feel that.
It's very possible, Bill. That's really good. It's very possible that, yeah, you didn't think of that. So that may be very, very true. But I'm saying there are people when you're talking with people. So how do we overcome an objection that maybe they won't voice? But it is real. It's there, but they may not voice it.
Ask questions.
I would say bring it up. Raise the objection yourself.
Yeah.
Put it on the table. I'll tell you something. This reminds me of a story. I was invited to be an A in an ABC call where this individual was hosting, I think it was 13 people in his living room. He'd just gotten involved. He'd only been involved a matter of days. And he hosted an in-home at his home for his select group of people that he invited to learn about NECAN, this opening meeting, this launch meeting. And I was calling in on a speakerphone doing the voice of God, the VOG, the voice of God, ABC. So it's the voice from, afar that is all wise. Anyway, what this person did on that call was literally rake me over the coals. That's what the B did. He did that in order to put it all on the table on behalf of what he knew his friends were thinking. And by doing that, He completely diffused any of the fear. And one of those questions was a powerful question. Was how is this any different than Amway? Wow, that's like putting it right on the fire, right? Like that's the one of the biggest questions you could ask somebody in network marketing. How is this different from Amway? Because who hasn't heard of Amway and who hasn't been pitched 10, 15 different ways, especially this crew. So by putting that
Preemptive
question,
play.
it was brilliant because by doing that, or how's this not a pyramid? By doing that, what they forced the A to do, not themselves, they didn't have to defend themselves. They didn't have to defend Nikan or the idea. They forced it on the A. So they're one. So now it's like it's me against them. They're on their side. The B is on their side. The B is actually the witness to the prospect. It was a brilliant move. And what it did was it allowed me to answer the question to the best of my ability. And being someone who was knowledgeable and did understand the differences and nuances, they liked the answer. They appreciated the answer and they appreciated the question. By the way, that meeting resulted in, so that one meeting was 13 people. And in the 3 days that followed that one meeting, there were ABC calls. We called in each person who was at that meeting in an ABC call as a follow-up. 12 of the 13 joined that week with a $5,000 product order each.
Wow.
Okay. So everything that I've learned about this business is based on the successes, and I stripped it to the principle. What's the core principle that was at play there? Because we're dealing with people, and people don't are not that different. We have fundamental needs, we have fundamental understandings, appreciations, likes, desires, wants, rejections. It doesn't change much, no, age-wise, and it doesn't change much over time. So distilling the core issue here is if somebody's afraid their reputation to put it on the line, then they're going to keep their lip zipped. They're not going to expose themselves. They're not going to subject themselves, especially if they think they know what this is, but they're not voicing it. So if you put it on the table, maybe you think this is a pyramid. You put it on the table, then you'll see whether or not that's the issue. Maybe you think people will think less of you by joining a network marketing business. Whew. I'm telling you, that's a huge one for people who have reputations and so forth. If you attack it first, then you're going to get to the bottom line and then you can address it. What did you discover? How did you overcome it? Why wasn't it on your mind? Because you obviously feel comfortable being involved in Niken and being associated with this team. So what is it about Niken that you love that doesn't affect your feeling of what other people might think about you? Or in fact, maybe the opposite. Maybe Niken is that added feather in your cap that gives you a little bit more horsepower, makes you feel a little bit. I'll tell you something. I'll give you an example of this. I was in Quebec. I remember this meeting. I was in a hotel in Quebec. I can't remember if it was Montreal or Quebec City. I think it was Montreal. And they brought a doctor, an MD, into this meeting with me. And I'm like in an executive suite. It's a beautiful place. I'm sitting there and I got this doctor who is just grilling me. And he is so anti-alternative anything. He was just there. I don't even know why he was there. It seemed like he was only there to argue with me. He wasn't there to learn anything, to hear anything. All he wanted to do was argue with me, regardless of my experience and what I knew about Niken technology and what he didn't know. Because he didn't know, somehow that made him feel, what's the word? It made him feel out of place, out of footing.
Inferior.
Inferior.
Yep.
And so a doctor, this particular one, whose ego was clearly very sensitive, didn't want to feel that way. And how does somebody react or act when they don't feel supported or when they feel out of balance,
Defensive.
defensive. And how does that show up? Argumentative,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
So you got to learn to read the tea leaves, what's going on there. And I basically my solution was to take it away from him because I wasn't there to convince him. I said, "This is clearly not for you. I don't know why you're here. We don't need to continue this meeting." Now, the person who brought him there probably was mortified that I did that because he brought his doctor, blah, 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 thinking is if I get this doctor and everything's going to be fantastic. He was wrong. That doctor would have been a big headache,
Mhm.
just a massive headache. I would not want to deal with that. I would not want to bring something like that into my home, never mind my business. So I think it's important that we are not shy about confronting whatever the issue may be, the underlying issue as to why somebody would not get involved. Now, there were some legitimate reasons like time. That's probably the biggest one, right? I don't have the time, right? Well, if they don't have the time now, and they didn't have the time 5 years ago, when, if they carry on in the way they're carrying on, will they ever have the time? You see, that would be a tough question to ask somebody. And you may not be the one to ask that question, but you put an A on who's one step away from that person, who's removed emotionally, and that A can be very objective and will ask that question. And now all of a sudden, that person has something to think about. Well, you may, and I notice I turned it from an excuse into a reason. That may be a reason, right? But that may be the reason why you should be involved. You're using it as the reason for why you shouldn't be involved. It seems to me you've missed the point. Someone hasn't explained to you how this business works. Because if you are successful in this business, which is why you would get involved, nobody gets involved to be unsuccessful. You get involved to be successful. So let me paint a picture for what it looks like to be successful in this business. The freedom of time to do what you want, when you want, with whomever you want. Does that sound like something you might appreciate, you who has no time?
Mhm.
So there's ways of addressing the concerns. And an A, because they're not emotionally attached to the outcome, is much more objective at getting to the point, isolating the issue, and addressing it. So the ABC is absolutely critical, 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 critical to bringing people into the flock. Now, I still think we need a bigger reason for people to join. There needs to be a bigger reason for people to join. I think the reason is it's bigger. It's something's happening. Like you see these commercials, XRP, did you get your XRP? I don't even know what the hell XRP is. Probably some digital currency of some kind. XRP, XRP. All I see when I'm streaming, XRP, XRP. So everybody's into this XRP, or they appear to be, or they want everybody to think they are into XRP, whatever that is. The point is, people want to be part of something significant. They want to be part of something that's moving somewhere, going somewhere. And especially if it's going where they want to go, if it leads to where they want to go, if they want to feel like what they have contributed to where their time and their energy is concerned has purpose. So a big driving factor is purpose. And it's one thing for them to have their own needs, but it's not the only thing that's going to drive them into Nikan. Their needs will drive them to look for solutions, yes, but why Nikan? Why choose Nikan? There has to be something even deeper than just money. There has to be something that gets them to think twice. And I think purpose is the key to that. Sue?
We want them to join us in our movement of living empowered. Empowered because they have the money, empowered because they feel wonderful, they're drinking great water, they're breathing great air, they're sleeping wonderfully. And it's a movement of wanting to live your best life.
Okay, I like everything you're saying. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Notice the language. It's basic, empowered, living your best life. It's tapping into the resources of Nikan so you can live your best life. In other words, it's so fundamental. It's not about doing more. It's not about achieving more. It's literally about being more.
The
Being more
emotional connection.
like how many people feel, especially no regrets, what Mike's talking about. Yeah. No regrets. To live a life of no regret means you took some chances on yourself, and one of them was to ensure you had the best access to health and meaningful conversations and community and a sense of purpose. But remember, if they're going to be successful at this, they have to reach out to people. There has to be a desire to
Mhm.
expose this to a lot of people in every way they know how. So what would cause somebody to go way out of their way to do that? Barbara?
I think, Mike, the movement, the change that we're seeing right now is the opening page of the website, feeling good every day. That resonates with anybody and everybody. And it's been a long time since people have been feeling good every day. But it not only says the possibility, there's the hope that they too can feel good every day. And then because we're a collaborative family of entrepreneurs, we're not competitive. They see where the support comes from all different directions, and it's not linear. It's all encompassing. And the fact that you and Dave have set up this strategy, this system of plugging into something every night and then the business Thursday night and brand night focusing. Um, it's a what's the word I'm looking for? It's a map of how they too can achieve whatever it is that they're looking for. Now, what they're looking for may not be exactly the same thing as the person that brought them into the business or somebody that they bring into the business, but it's applicable to everybody. The very fact that you've got your enthusiast, you've got your retailer, you've got your um, wholesale customer, and then you have somebody that wants to build a legacy, and it may take a long time or they may go gung ho, but it's applicable to anybody. And the fact that they don't have to, as Sue said, or Bela, they don't have to meet a certain thousands of dollars every month. If they can only manage a couple of $100 a month, that's okay. But if they also want to do 5,000 or more a month, that's okay too. Each person can start at whatever their need is at that particular point in time. And as they start to see their business building and the checks start coming in, as Paula said when she gave a testimonial, I think it was maybe last week, that she had no intentions of doing the business. But then these checks started coming and she thought, geez, maybe I better take a look at it. A similar thing happened to Wayne and I.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we just helped a few people with a couple of challenges, and that prompted us to take a real good look at the business behind the products.
Let me jump in here because you triggered something that brought up one of the earlier fear things was about selling. Selling.
I need to say
Um,
something too, Mike. You go ahead.
okay. I'm thinking out loud here because it seems that we're either building a community of sellers or we're building a community of users. And which do you think is actually easier? To build a community of sellers or to build a community of users? Users meaning people who utilize all of the support that's available, the products, everything, that they're enthusiasts and enthusiastic about telling other people about this because they discovered something purposeful, meaningful, impactful.
Once they become enthusiastic, they can't stop.
Mhm.
So are
It's
we
getting
teaching them
that
how to
initial
sell or are
hit.
we teaching them how to show people how to buy?
It depends on the person. And
Nobody
also, like,
sold.
I know the one thing that, I mean, I signed up, I don't know when, September, I think. But I wasn't, I was like Paula, when I started, I said, Paula, I don't want to sell anything to anybody. But because I bought the products and because my health changed after 36 years of disaster, um, I I started to join the meetings. I came to the Tuesday night meeting first and I liked what I saw. Then I came to the brand night. But what happened as I started to join in the meetings, I started realizing that my values were aligned with the company's values and or the company's values were rather aligned with my values and I wanted to be of service to others. And Mike, when you asked me that on that Thursday night call, what did you want, I really was honest. I got into it because I wanted to see other people who did not have experienced good health to try the products and be sold on the products and get better. Okay, so maybe I'm teaching people to buy, to be a user rather than a seller because I haven't had much luck doing the latter. But I think what makes us comfortable is the environment in which we are placed when we join Nikin. And it just blows me away every single day that this company is actually trying to serve the highest good. Yes, money's important. They're in business, but
Mhm.
what the way they align themselves with the well-being of all of us, that speaks volumes. So that's where I think it sets us apart.
Okay, with that in mind specifically, then you would agree the more people we can get onto these calls, the more likely they're going to see what you're seeing
Yeah.
and connect with the message and the people.
Mhm.
And so we need to get better at recruiting people to these calls, which is an ABC in itself, right? When you have somebody on this call, they
Right.
can experience Niken from the perspective of everybody as an individual, but they get an overall feel as to what we're doing here and how we help each other. This conversation is very, very helpful. I don't know if you guys are taking notes. I am, because it really helps us hone in on how do we go about the business of attracting more people. If we're looking for, and I'm saying this out loud because I'm experiencing this myself. It's like, am I looking for people who want a business? Am I looking for people who are being the entrepreneur, the seller, or am I looking for people who want to feel good and feel better?
I think
And
we're looking for both.
I agree. The question is, if I'm going to put the feeler out, if I'm going to bait the hook on in some way or another, what is it that's going to be the
What's the
ultimate?
priority?
What's the priority? Because this new verb, this new vernacular, this new idea of feeling good every day it's very low-hanging fruit. It's a lot easier to talk to anybody about that. And
Mhm.
since we do also have a system in place that we know if we can get them close to the fire, they're going to catch on fire. They're going to get ignited. So maybe that is the approach we ought to be looking at. Every now and then, you're going to find an entrepreneur, but what you need to show the entrepreneur is how the fire gets lit. They need to understand how it works. And I'll
Right.
give you another example. I brought somebody to a wellness preview. Back in the day, we'd host hotel meetings. We called them a wellness preview, where people basically it's the Tuesday night meeting with the addition of testimonials, live testimonials, and some demonstrations. So it's the Tuesday night meeting, which would last usually about an hour and a half because it included testimonials and demonstrations. But they got an overall understanding of the Nikan opportunity and what's at stake. So I brought this person to that meeting, but before we walked in the meeting, I said, now what you're going to see here is the franchise in operation. Because the conversation that I had with that individual was the idea of having many franchises of Nikken, essentially, kind of like the Coke machines, have a Coke machine on every corner. So I wanted him to see what the McDonald's quote unquote franchise looked like. So before we walked into the meeting room, I said, now you're going to experience what the franchise looks like in operation. So when they went into the meeting, they were looking at how it operated. They weren't looking at being sold. I wasn't taking them to the meeting so that they could be sold. I was taking them to the meeting so that they could understand the operation, because then they could imagine 1,000 of those across North America. They could see how that could grow into something. So that's what I wanted to impress upon them, the idea of amassing a network of people doing meetings like this in every town and city. That's how we were going to get the message of Nikan out. So when they came in the meeting and they saw the meeting, that's what they saw. They saw every kind of character there was in that store. We saw we there was a guy with a button on his head said, "Ask me about magnets." It was like every character there was in that room. Now, if I didn't preface that, he might have come into that room and looked at everybody and thought, "I don't belong here. These are not my people." What he came into the room and saw was, look at all the customers that come to this place. They catch them all. They get everybody interested. It was just how I prefaced so that he had a lens to look at what he was looking at. So if you invite somebody to a meeting like this, or you invite somebody to any of the Nikken meetings, create a little bit of a preface so that they understand what they're looking at. We're not asking them to be like us. We're asking them to look at the people that are attracted to this and think about all the people you know and all the people they know who could fit into this picture. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the
Mhm.
message is not about you need to be like us. The message is, can you see how other people will fit into this?
Who do you know that could fit into this?
But it changes the way they think away from being a consumer to being somebody who can actually be a promoter. It changes the dynamic of how they're interpreting the information. Paula.
They also don't see themselves then as a salesperson that has to sell magnets. Because the thing is, I really believe the reality is most people who get involved with Niken have had a positive product experience. And
Yeah.
once you've had that positive product experience, you tell everybody about it. And so now you're on fire just because you're enthusiastic and they're wondering, well, what you have for breakfast, you know? And it's not a matter of selling people, it's about creating a positive buying experience. You know,
Creating, write that down.
creating a
Creating
positive buying
positive.
experience.
Mhm.
Because if you have a product that you think might work for them and you demonstrate that product, then and it works, then that's something. I mean, my husband today was doing some weeding and he came in and he goes, "Oh, my hands are so achy, so creaky." And I don't have any silver mag boys left, but I got a number of gold ones for doing 21 clubs way, way back in the day. And I said, just take those gold balls and stick them in your hands. And I says, play with them if you want, because I know that it'll loosen them up. But like a typical man, sometimes you have to scrape them off the pavement before they'll listen. But if you give them a product and it works for them, well, you saw with the 1 minute necklace deal, going around and putting the necklace on people. It's
Yeah.
quick, it's instant, and now you've captured their attention. So now they're more willing to look at other things.
Right.
The
Right.
curiosity has been triggered,
Peaked.
peaked, yeah.
See, now what I usually do is I turn that curiosity, even if they ask me how much is I got this question the other day. I think it was a pair of insoles. They asked me how much the insoles were. I'm like, I don't know. Um, Give me a second, I'll look it up. And I actually didn't know because I don't know. See, to me, the products are tools. I'm not trying to sell the product. I'm trying to help this person connect the dots in their own mind because then they'll buy everything. I don't need to sell them. They'll buy what they like. They'll buy what they understand. And if they understand that this is something that's going to lead them to feel good, then how much is irrelevant. It's
I
do you
never
want to
know the
feel good
prices
or
purposely.
so it's important that we draw attention to ourselves. We draw attention to what this is as a door opener, and then keep the door open. Don't try and close. Keep the door open. Open it wider. See what else is there that they could learn about.
I usually tell them I can't give you the price of any individual thing because I don't usually sell one of something. I sell a bunch of stuff. I can look it up for you if you really need to know, but
Cool. Madeline, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I think as I'm listening, Mike, to this discussion of the old way, the new way, and now we have a new terminology, it reminds me of the slides. You said walking into a room and there's all these people. So the slide with the bushels of apples. So that bushel of apples, uh, somebody there is going to be some of what we're hearing here. They're interested in an insole or they're interested in a network of the whole apple origin. And so, and I hear some people saying, listening to that presentation, a light can go on. But this discussion tonight of how to have the conversations and what to introduce people to, and now we're in transition because it's a combination of Zoom, live, and whatever social media is all about. To me, and that's my frustration, and I think it's difficult. I'm listening to that differently tonight. When you just said this is an interesting conversation, that's what came to me. Having given that presentation for so long, when I used myself as an example on the pyramid scheme, I happened to look and saw you making a note. And so somehow even making those slides come alive, or what the apples mean in there, or do you know what I'm saying? And now we're going to be getting some slides of a new PowerPoint. And how long is it going to be?
It's just modified, but I'm going to incorporate some of the new language.
Okay, I'm just throwing that out to be thinking as I'm listening from what I'm hearing from listening to others comment. Everybody that's here just said we're coming back.
So somebody's echoing. I'm just wondering if we can mute and not get that echo. Getting an echo from somewhere. Go ahead again, Madeline.
That's really what I wanted to
Yeah.
point out. Just food for thought, because that's what I hear that's happening tonight. We're each growing, and we all want to grow, or we wouldn't be here all the time. And so, just the changes, I guess, in the way the world is, and some of the tools that we use, and the words that we use, and how we listen. So it's been a good conversation, as you said.
It's all. By the way, I'm also very much influenced by what my daughter's doing. Sophia specifically, how she is growing her business, how she's using the attraction, how it's very specific. She's drawing in an audience of people who are very specific. And the assumption she's making is that I love what she wrote today. There's a particular thing that she's marketing right now. She says, I know God has written this on somebody, their hearts already. I'm anxious to see who the person is. So there are people out there that are going to resonate with this message. They're going to connect. And you have to trust that. You have to really be the person who walks tall and trusts. Don't, it's like me with that doctor. He was attacking me and trying to undermine everything that we were about. And I just didn't fall for it because I didn't need him. And neither did my distributor who brought him. They didn't need that in their life. And so when you know and you walk tall and you walk with confidence, people notice that. And when you're interacting with somebody, they notice that about you, that there's a certain confidence that you have when you talk about Niken and this subject, that you don't need to sell them, that you want them to enjoy the benefits if feeling good is something they actually are genuinely interested in. And there are degrees of feeling good. There's feeling good physically, mentally, emotionally. There's feeling good because you don't have financial concerns. You've got some assurances there. There's all kinds of feeling good. And Nikan has all kinds of solutions. So walking in the confidence of being someone who can be a provider, and this may be, by the way, another thing that relates back to the fear of rejection slash reputation. If you can help somebody see that being a Nikan wellness enthusiast, wellness entrepreneur actually adds to their identity, actually raises the bar on their identity, then now you've attracted the most important thing. You're creating a way of them being edified or edifying themselves by association with Niken. In other words, Niken is not a thing that takes them down in front of their friends. It's a thing that brings them up because now they have access to the finest technology in wellness. They have access to a community of people who are more caring than just about anything. You know what I'm saying? If their association to Niken if you can show it to them where their association with Niken and the whole Niken experience is something that actually elevates them, it elevates them, their posture, who they are, what they represent. It's something that elevates them. You won't have any trouble attracting them in. Cheryl.
Thank you. So two things, just like you were saying, elevating up. So Nikan has afforded me the ability to have a huge quality of life shift upward. So everything went up. Everything went up. Sleep, everything went up. And as I continue to hone in on what it is that I need to do, it all starts with me first. It all starts with inside. So as I continue to build, I'll say my spirit, everything around me builds from there. So as I continue to grow my spirit, as I continue to feed it, everything around me as a consequence comes up. So for me, Nikan has afforded me a huge quality of life shift upwards. And the second thing I have to say, some people say, oh, I can't sell. Well, first of all, you need in a business, no disrespect to anybody who feels any different than I do, I don't mind. In a business, you have to have a product or service. If you don't have a product or service, then what the hell do you have? I'm not sure. But you do need a product or service. And I went from selling to being a referral source. People see the shoes I have on. Hey, where'd you get those from? I got them from so-and-so. I have a sweater on. Hey, that's a nice sweater. Where'd you get that from? I got it from so-and-so. And so-and-so doesn't give me a dime. But in Niken, I can be a referral source and make money on that referral. just referring people to the products. And now I'm learning how to refer people to the business opportunity that is at hand. So I think it depends on the mindset and the mind shift that needs to come when people say things that may be objective to what it is that you're doing. But I think it's important to know how to answer them. Like the doctor that was giving you trouble, a lot of feedback, a lot of negativity. He already made up his mind. He wasn't interested. He wasn't open. And his ego had him acting like a fool. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I wrote down
Well said.
selling. So we're selling one of three things. Every human being. You're either selling your time, or you're selling a product, or you're selling a service. But everybody's selling something. Otherwise, there's no income. So if somebody's getting paid, they're doing one of these three things. And that's the question I would ask. Are you getting paid for something? Yes. Well, it's one of these three things. Getting paid for time, which you only have so much of, or you're getting paid for a product that you're marketing, which I guess that depends on how much the supplier has, and then, or a service. And a service is usually also related to time. So they're all
May
selling
I add
something.
something quickly,
Yep.
Mike? We hear periodically from people that our products are so expensive, but somebody has an issue. And so I don't quote prices. I will say to them, if I had something that could potentially alleviate that issue, what would it be worth to you? How much would you be willing to pay for it? And I get a number. I probably have a pretty darn good idea of where our price is on that item, whether it's higher or lower. And 99% of the time, our price would be lower. And I say, well, we do have a product that could potentially assist you. Well, how much is it? I'd have to look it up. How much would it be worth to you? Then I look it up. When I give them a lower price, they're in.
Good. Paula, last comment, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me. The sleep system made such a profound difference that, and especially for my son, when Steve had an experience, that was great. When I had an experience, that was great. But when I saw what it did for my son, I called the person who introduced me to it, and I says, "I'll take two, and I don't care what it costs." And she says, "You want to buy wholesale, you want to buy retail." And that was it. Thou shalt not pay retail if if you're an accountant, you definitely don't want to pay
I was
retail.
trying to remember who it was that said that on the call because that was actually on my mind on this call tonight. Thou
Yeah,
shalt not pay retail.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, price is relative, like to the level of comfort or discomfort that you have. If you can get rid of it,
Yeah,
is it worth it to you?
yeah, totally. Okay, good stuff. Good call. Good ideas. Good concepts. I hope you took some notes and it helps you in communication. We do want to expand the number of people on all these calls. It's an indicator. Obviously, tonight is an exception because of the holiday in the States, but really a good sign of whether we're going in the right direction or not is ABC calls. And so let's set a goal for June to do 100 ABC calls. Everybody kick in on this. I'm willing to do all 100 myself if I have to, but that would be a real win, a real victory for us to as a team to. And I'll keep scoring. We'll just keep feeding it back every week. I'll let you know where we're at, or maybe I'll put it on the chats. So, guys, let's do this.
Challenge heard,
Let's
challenge
do
accepted.
this. Let's do this. There's so many people who are going to get involved in network marketing in the next 30 days. So many. And they're going to overcome all the objections and they're going to buy products and they're going to start their experience. Why not with Nikan? Why not make it with us? We just got to be first to it. So let's get on with it. All right. Thanks, Mike. Okay, everybody. Have a great night. Thanks for joining.
Thank you,
Thank
Mike.
you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having
Good
us
night.
tonight.
Thanks, Mike.